On today's episode of Locked On Mariners, we'll tell you which former Mariner will have the best 2023 in their new home. Plus, a familiar face joins Seattle on a minor league deal. Let's get into it. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is Thursday, February 23rd, 2023. This is Trident and Colby Patnode for the Locked On Mariners podcast. Thank you so much for making us your first listen. Subscribe, like, and turn on alerts if you're watching on YouTube, or subscribe and leave a 5-star review on your preferred podcast platform if you like what you hear. And if you want to hear from us even more, please consider signing up for our Patreon. The link as well as our social accounts is in the description below. On the show today, we'll pick a former Mariner we feel is best suited to find success with their new team in 2023. Plus, I'll tell you how you can watch as many Mariners games as possible this spring. But Colby, let's start here because we actually have some minor Mariners news coming out of camp earlier this morning from Shannon Dreyer of 710 Seattle Sports. Kole Calhoun was spotted in the Mariners clubhouse today. Yes, the Mariner killer himself, most notoriously killing the Mariners as an Anaheim Angel for many, many years. It's been a struggle for him the last couple of years, though. We'll certainly get into that. But before we get into Calhoun here, I'll give the floor to you so you can vent your feelings about Ben Gamel, who also recently signed a minor league contract, but not
he
with
was
the Mariners,
right
with the Rays.
there, Ty. He was right there. And unlike
Yeah.
Kole Calhoun, Ben Gamel has been relevant the last 2 years. So, you know who else has been relevant the last 2 years? Tyler Naquin, who also just signed a minor league deal. But sure, let's give it to Cowboy Cole. Who cares? Can't hit lefties to save his life. And last year ran like a 33% strikeout rate with a WRC plus about the same as Sam Haggerty against right-handed pitching. Ooh. Got to get that guy, not Ben Gamel. Kole Calhoun was really good defensively like 4 years ago, though. So, I mean, that counts for something. Nothing. It counts for nothing, Jerry. Jesus Christ. It's a minor league deal. So, ultimately, it doesn't really matter. But if this ends with Kole Calhoun making the opening day roster over anybody, I mean, literally anybody, hands will be thrown at one Gerard DePoto. Okay. This guy's a bum. Ben Gamel was right there. Just had to pick him up. He's right there.
Tyler Naquin.
Even better. Right there.
Yeah.
And they're like, Kole Calhoun. The guy who sucked so bad in Texas last year, we intentionally walked the hitter in front of him like 5 times to get to Kole Calhoun. That's the guy we want. There's value there. Honestly, Leonis Martinez better. And Leonis hasn't played Major League Baseball for 4 years. So, yeah.
Oof. Wow. Calhoun this past year, he's 35 years old now. In his age 34 season with the Rangers, he actually played in 125 games for the Rangers this past year, which is mind-blowing considering
Might
how
explain
bad
why
he
the
was.
Rangers sucked last year.
Yeah. 196, 257, 330 triple slash line with a 67 WRC plus. That's good for, guess what, Colby? A negative 1.1 F4. Ooh. Yeah, he did smack 12 bombs, 49 ribs, even had 3 steals. But he also struck out 32.1% of the time and only walked 6.4% of the time. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I'd be pretty surprised if we even see Kole Calhoun play a single game for the Mariners at the major league level. But who knows? Injuries can stack up, and all of a sudden, Calhoun's the next guy in line. Knock on wood here that we'd never get to that point.
I would rather start Jack Larson than Kole Calhoun.
Oof.
So, yeah. I'd rather put Evan White on the major league roster as a left field only than start Kole Calhoun.
But Colby, you have said in the past that there is no such thing as a bad minor league signing. Are you saying that
Correct.
This is a bad minor league signing?
Yes, because Ben Gamel was right there.
He was right there. He was right there. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like he went up to the vending machine. It's like he went up to the vending machine and Gamel was like A6 and Jerry was only half paying attention and he hit A9 and then Kole Calhoun fell down. He's like, oh, well.
Yeah, I'll take it.
I only had a quarter, so
yeah,
I'll take it. Like, He was right there, and so was Tyler Naquin. But no, seriously,
Yeah.
it's not a bad signing. Like,
Yeah.
who cares?
If you couldn't
He's a
tell,
camp
though,
body.
Colby feels very slighted by this, by not landing.
It is
Gamble.
a slap in the face by somebody who I thought was our friend, but now I'm thinking just showed up to do our interview because it was good PR for the team or something. There was a bond that was built, but apparently not.
Yeah.
But
I mean, you should have pitched it to him. You had your opportunity and you didn't.
he said he was going to bring back familiar names. I assumed that was Ben Gamble, not Leonis Martin and Kole Calhoun
is a familiar name, right?
Yeah, I mean,
player
technically,
under
like,
Jerry DiPoto in Anaheim for many years.
I know. And then like a few days later it was Leonis, and I was like, oh, that's. I mean, Ben
Yeah.
Gamble's right there, but we love Leonis, so I'll let it slide. But no,
Yeah.
we bring in like the 5'3" right fielder who can't run, hit, or throw anymore. Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, Kole Calhoun was actually pretty good against righties in 2021 in like 100 plate appearances. So
yeah.
Woo!
So since leaving Anaheim, he left Anaheim after the 2019 season, signed with Arizona, obviously played for the Diamondbacks during the COVID-shortened season, 54 games, and was actually really good that year. Only hit for 226 average, but he got on base at a 338 clip and slugged 526. That was good for a 125 WRC plus. He was really good in 2020. And then 2021, like you mentioned, good against righties. Overall, though, posted an 80 WRC plus. 51 in 51 games.
He had a negative 12 WRC plus against lefties. Negative 12.
Yeah, that's not great. Wasn't striking out a lot. It's weird though. You know, he's never really been a high strikeout guy. And then this year, I think his career high in strikeouts in a season was 24.1 in 2018. I'm looking at his Fangraphs page. Actually, it was 25.6 in 2019. But then he goes all the way to 32.1% in 2022 after going 21.9 and 22.5 in his 2 seasons with the Diamondbacks. Yeah. Weird trajectory for him. But yeah, at the end of the day, I don't, no. Kelenick's obviously the guy for now, and then we'll see, how Marlowe potentially fits into the equation. We'll see, how long it takes for Trammell to get back and all that. But so I'm not really concerned about Kole Calhoun playing in actual major league games for the Mariners. But yeah.
And I mean, like in the 1 in a million chance you get 2020 Kole Calhoun, that's pretty good DH, at least against righties. So there is one open roster spot we're assuming, and that's just, of course, assuming Dylan Moore is healthy. But there's one spot on the bench. Haggerty's the heavy favorite, but I feel like, Moran has a shot. And I guess you throw Calhoun and Martin into that competition, but it just seems unlikely. So we'll see what happens with it. But overall, it's a camp body, and I wouldn't be too terribly shocked if this is kind of a precursor to Seattle trying to get Calhoun's playing days. Jerry was the guy who I believe drafted and developed Calhoun when he was with the Angels, and he's always really liked Kole Calhoun, and even today he called him a great clubhouse guy, and just a good player to have around all these young guys. So I get it. It's a camp body, but again, Ben Gamble is right there. Or Tyler Naquin. Yeah. I don't care which one. Pick. But they would have been significantly more interesting than Kole Calhoun.
Just say what you really feel. You want to Ben Gamble. Tyler Naquin is just being thrown in there.
Well,
I mean, you really want to Gamble.
First of all, Naquin's a pretty good player. So the fact that he got a minor league deal,
but I know that you're only really hurt here because you did not get Ben Gamble out of this situation.
Second of all, have you seen Ben Gamble in the future jerseys or whatever?
Yes, the turn ahead the clock jerseys. Yes, we've heard about this time and time again.
I feel like I need to get like a
turn ahead the clock jersey.
So I could just point to it.
Yeah, you should just you should print it out. You should print it out, frame it, hang it up in your background, and then you will also have
right here.
Okay, yeah.
When I look up, I'm like, Ben Gamble.
It'll inspire you. Yeah. All right. So the Mariners saw quite a few names from their drought-ending season leave this winter, but which one of those guys will have the best 2023 with their new team? We're going to be talking about that. And we're also going to be talking about the Mariners TV schedule for spring training in just a moment. But real quick, a reminder, this episode of Locked On Mariners is brought to you by FanDuel. The midway point of the NBA season is here, and now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything, including the Warriors at +6 against the Lakers or the Pelicans at +6 against the Raptors. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same-game parlay. So don't miss your chance to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/LockedOn. That's FanDuel.com/LOCKEDON to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. Thank you again for making us your first listen. So, Mitch Haniger, Adam Frazier, Carlos Santana, Jesse Winker, Abraham Toro, all of these guys have departed Seattle. They're now with new teams. But which one of these guys is set to have the biggest 2023? Which one of these guys are we going to look at the end of the year and go, man, maybe the Mariners shouldn't have let that guy go? Or more accurately, which one of these guys is going to get overblown? Which one of their seasons is going to get overblown by a certain sect of the Mariners fan base, I'll say, to just put it lightly. I think there's one really obvious answer. We've talked about him quite a bit this offseason and just how it seems so likely that he's going to blow up this year after a down year this past season. That's Jesse Winker, right, Colby?
Yeah, I think it's probably a no-brainer that it's Jesse Winker. Last year was awful. By Jesse Winker standards, and really the standards of anybody with eyeballs. But he did walk a lot, so it kind of buoyed his WRC plus, so it looked better than it actually was. But yeah, Winker was a disaster last year. But when you look at his track record of what he's done throughout his entire career, it's almost impossible for me to look at the numbers last year and not say that's just a huge outlier. That doesn't mean it would have worked in Seattle. There were other issues with Jesse Winker. He wasn't, I don't want to say he wasn't liked, but there were some issues with his effort and in the field and all that stuff. It didn't mesh well, let's say, with a lot of the guys in this clubhouse.
Per reports, of course, but right, it did seem pretty evident based on what was happening on the field. Yeah.
So it just wasn't a good fit. And Winker was hurt last year. He battled quite a few small injuries, and that had an impact as well. I just feel like Winker's going to go back and he's going to hit, probably 300, 360, 480 or something like that. And, be a 135 WRC plus guy. And the people can get to play their favorite game of judge a trade in a vacuum and ignore all the reasons that the trade was made. It's probably going to be Winker. And I think like if we phrased it like which player will fans miss the most, probably Mitch.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Yeah. But I mean, how many games is Mitch Haniger going to miss? Right. Like that's the big question. And so It's hard to say that he is going to be the biggest loss biggest loss on the field when he's hardly ever on it. So if Mitch plays 145 games, maybe he can overtake Winker for that. But I mean, you want to bet on that? Because I don't, and the Mariners obviously didn't either. So I feel like Winker is going to have a really nice year.
I mean, Winker is the guy that when they traded for him, we touted as, we touted him as, one of the 20 best hitters in all of baseball. Mm-hmm. That's who he's been prior to, last year, really, for most of his career. I just don't think that guy just went away. And now he's in, he gets a change of scenery. Now he should be healthy after his procedures that he's had done this winter. Because obviously he was dealing with some stuff last year. And, he got off to a really frustrating start, and that kind of just snowballed into everything else. And, I have a hard time imagining that he is just this guy now long term.
Yeah.
Now,
I mean, he's like
does that
29, 30.
Does
So,
that make it a bad trade though? Not really, because I mean, Winker doesn't necessarily fit within the context of this current roster right now. Yes, they do have the DH spot still open, but God, he does not give you any sort of flexibility in the field because he is just so awful out there, and that's not going to improve. That part of his game is not going to improve. It's really just, it's so, all of this is so predicated on his bat getting back on track, because that's all he really has to offer. And I think that, when we look up, he's going to end up hitting like 25 bombs, hit for like 280. And if Colton Wong struggles this year, if he doesn't have necessarily the year that the Mariners, we were hoping for, I'm sure that's going to be a trade that is looked back on not too kindly.
Yeah, it's always difficult when you like try and grade trades, because what's lost so often is the context in which the trade is made. We did this a few weeks ago when Justice Sheffield was DFA'd, and like, I mean, Sheffield didn't do anything, so obviously the Yankees won that trade. It's like, well, no, because the Mariners got those wins back when they needed them, and that's more valuable than the wins they would have gotten in 2019. With Winker, it's just, the Mariners needed a second baseman. They liked what they had in the outfield. And there was a culture clash of some kind between Winker and the Mariners.
Was the process sound? That's ultimately what you have to ask yourself. It's hard for us, especially in sports where hot takes dominate the conversation all the time, right? And you have to just have a really black or white view of everything that happens, especially when it comes to trades. As my light tried to fall finally for the first time during a recording of Locked On, but I caught it. Got reflexes like Spider-Man, Toby's Spider-Man, to be very clear.
Which means no reflexes.
But where was I? I completely lost my train of thought there. It's about the you got to think about the process
of the trade versus the result
of the trade. Yeah, versus the result, right? Because again, like I said, the conversation is ultimately dominated by having this like black or white, you have to pick one side or the other, type of view. And so that's not really how these things work, right? Context is very important when you're talking about transactions. And so the context of when the actual trade was made, you have to go back to that day. Why did the trade happen? What motivated both teams to make that deal? What motivated the Mariners in this particular instance to trade Jesse Winker for Colton Wong? And it was essentially, like you said, Winker was not a fit in the clubhouse, clearly, even though that the Mariners essentially denied what Ryan Divish reported. But
and then traded him. It was 2 weeks later.
And then traded him like 2 weeks later. Yeah. So like clearly there was an issue there. And the guy he's just a DH. That's really all he is at the end of the day. And if you don't think that he's going to be able to get back on track offensively within your club, you got to move on because he doesn't provide you any other value. So meanwhile, you had one of the worst second base situations this past season, and you have an opportunity to land a guy that you have coveted for quite some time in Colton Wong, and you have an opportunity here where the money is basically a wash. It makes a lot of sense on both ends. And, I think at the end of the day, no matter how these guys end up performing this year, I'm fine with the trade. I'm fine with the process of the trade. It's a sound process. I wasn't like doing backflips over the Mariners acquiring Colton Wong because I, like, pretty much every other Mariners fan had, we're hoping like, hey, like, I would like Trey Turner or one of those guys, but hey, Colton Wong's a pretty good baseball player too. So
the Mariners got better, but not in the way I wanted them to. I'm gonna throw a fit. This team doesn't care.
What is wrong with being like, hey, I would like my favorite baseball team to sign Trey Turner?
Because it wasn't based in reality, unless you believe that one random dude who said that Turner was sitting down with the Mariners, and then 10 minutes later,
10 minutes
he signed
later,
with the Phillies. Like literally 10 minutes later.
Yeah.
That is tweet of the century, by the way.
Yeah, that was an incredible.
Those 10
moment.
minutes, yes, where Mariners Twitter was convinced that we were about to sign Trey Turner. Yeah. No, but yeah, you and your complaining bunch. Like, I don't like how my team got better. They got better, but I don't like how they did it. Okay.
They got better, but they could have gotten even more better.
No, they couldn't have.
I'm just saying.
They couldn't have gotten better by signing Trey Turner because Trey Turner wasn't ever going to sign here.
Look,
stop
whether it's
feeding
based
the
on reality
side.
or not, I would just whatever. All right, I'm not doing this anymore.
No.
Okay. All right. Let's is there anyone else that you want to talk about? Do you want to spend a couple minutes on Carlos Santana, Colby, Adam Frazier?
No.
Or should we move on?
I'm okay moving on from them. And by the way, side note, I could totally see a scenario where the Mariners reacquire Carlos Santana at the deadline.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think we even talked about that.
Yeah, and honestly, I could see him if everything works out a certain way. I could see him reacquiring Jesse Winker because you only have to put up with him for 2 months and he's your full-time DH. Like, I could see him legitimately doing that. Now, obviously, the Brewers would have to be out of the playoffs, which, would be Corbin Burns' fault at that point. So
naturally,
yeah. So maybe just get Corbin Burns too. So maybe if Corbin Burns is the problem, maybe the Brewers just want to get rid of him in July.
Zach DeLoach for Corbin Burns. Let's get it done.
It would sting, but I think I would.
Kole Calhoun for Corbin Burns.
Sure. I'll say this. I do think that Frazier will be a little bit better than he was last year.
Sure.
But still not better than Wong. I think Santana pretty much is what he is at this point. And then, I'm rooting for Abraham Toro, but you just haven't seen enough to think that he's going to make a huge difference. And I actually think Swanson's probably going to regress some back to the mean. So to me, it really is Winker or Haniger, even though those are the obvious answers. And I just think I trust Winker's bat to rebound more than I trust Mitch Haniger's body not to collapse. So that's why I picked Winker.
Right. So I'm going to give you something else to rant about here. So get excited, Colby. We're going to talk about the Mariners spring training TV schedule here because it's on the Roots sports side of things, not great. But I do have some good news for folks that are MLB TV subscribers. You're actually going to have an opportunity to watch baseball tomorrow. Yeah, I know that's really hard to believe considering how cold it is in the state of Washington right now, especially if you're in the areas where it's snowed. But yeah, the Mariners are playing their first baseball game of 2023 tomorrow against the Padres at 12:10 Pacific time. That game not on Root Sports, but the Padres are broadcasting it on Bally Sports, which means that's going to be available on MLB TV. I put together a definitive, I guess we'll call it, TV schedule for spring training for the Mariners on a Google sheet. We'll actually link that in the description of this episode on both YouTube and the podcast platform. So if you're listening or you're watching right now, you can take a look at it as well. But yeah, tomorrow you can see the Mariners on TV if you have MLB TV. And then Saturday against the Angels, they will be on Root Sports. But then you got to wait let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days until you get your next opportunity to see them on Root Sports. Between that time, though, there will be a couple more games on MLB TV. There's actually one that's going to be a national televised game on MLB Network. That's against the White Sox on February 27th at 12:05 p.m. And then the March 1st game against the Cubs is also on MLB TV. But yeah, March 4th is the next game on Root Sports. That's against the Rockies. And then you have to wait until March 10th, 11th, and the 12th for the next 3 Root Sports games. And then after that, you got to wait until March 19th for another Root Sports game. There's only 9 Root Sports games this whole spring, which that's unacceptable considering that the Seattle Mariners own Root Sports. So, Colby, I know you have some thoughts on this. I would love to hear them.
I'm sorry, Ty. I was too busy watching Backpacking Across Switzerland on Root, which is on Root right now, which, well, what do you know, is about the time all the Mariner games are on. But, we gotta watch Greg Amsinger or whoever interview Floyd Mayweather.
Ben Singer, yeah.
Yeah, we got to watch him interview Floyd Mayweather's first sparring partner instead of, looking at Emerson Hancock's new changeup. So why would we want to see that? That would cost me money to send people down there, 3 people to operate the cameras. Like, oh, no, we can't have that. Even though they're already broadcasting the games on the radio, Lord forbid we spend an extra 10 grand to get more than 9 games up here. Which is dumb because you're down there already anyways, because you're broadcasting the second game of the spring. It's not like, oh, well, we're going to wait till the second half and then we'll do 9 of the last 11 games. No, it's here's a game here, wait a week. Here's a game here, wait a week. Here's 4 in a row, wait a week. Here's one, wait 3 days. Here's another. Like, it's the dumbest schedule you could possibly imagine. It is worth noting though that Wednesday's game, March 1st, is available if you have Fubo.
Mm,
It is on Marquee Sports Network. They play the Cubs.
yeah.
So yeah,
Look, this doesn't impact me as much as it does you guys, because obviously I'm already out of market as is. I'm using MLB TV in general to watch all the Mariners games anyway. But still, this is incredibly frustrating for Mariners fans because, look, I'm sure the logistics of it all is a little bit more complicated than maybe it seems to us simpletons, but you own the network. Figure it out. You can air more than 9 games. The Padres are airing like 19, I think, right?
Yeah, you have 3 Root Sport Northwest channels, and you can't dedicate one to showing a game, a spring training game the year after they break the drought and the interest amongst the Mariners is higher than ever. You're like, 9 is enough. Oh, is it like
Yeah.
9 in a row, like the last 9 to like really get people hyped? No, it's like 1 here, 1 there, and then like 3 in a row, like on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Which ironically is during the week that you're
Right.
likely going to be
Well, I'm
down
going
in
to be watching the
Spain.
games anyways, so like doesn't help me at all. So yeah, it's dumb because I like be honest out there, folks. Do you watch Root Sports for anything other than the Mariners games or the Kraken games or like live sports? Is there
Yeah.
any other reason you watch Root Sports? And the answer is no, because Root Sports isn't good. I gave you their 2 most popular shows, backpacking across Switzerland and some random dude I've never heard of interviewing players I couldn't care less about. And then like once
What,
the
you
season
don't
starts, I
care about
guess
Graham Bensinger interviewing Ryan Sheckler?
no, I don't even know who those people are. But sure, no, we can't. Well, God forbid we send down 2 extra camera operators so that we can do more than a game a week in spring training. Like, and we're not even asking that much because it was like 3 years ago prior to the pandemic. We got like 18 games.
Right.
That was awesome. And now
Yeah.
we get 9. And they're not even all in a
Yeah.
row. They're not even like even remote. There's no rhyme or reason to the 9. So
let me count these down real quick. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So 18 of the Mariners spring training games this year you can watch via MLB TV or Root Sports.
Right.
So again, we'll have the link to the schedule that I put together in the description.
But 9 of them require
only
you to
half.
spend more money
Yeah.
to watch these games when
Yeah.
they own the freaking network that the games are being televised on. They own the
Yeah.
team, they own the network. Tell me all you want about the logistical problems of running more of these games. I don't care. Figure it out. The Mariners make you more money than the Mariners are the only reason you exist as a sports network. Let's be very clear about that.
I mean, but Colby, this is the same sports network that kept the Kraken away from half of the state of Washington for like a year and a half of the
Don't get me
team's
started
existence.
on that. This entire show cannot be me yelling into the mic. Okay.
I mean, I'm trying to make it that though. If it wasn't,
I know you are.
We haven't gotten a good full on Colby rant episode in a while. So trying to facilitate that today, because that's what the people want, man.
I'm not the monkey where you play the little music box and I dance around for you.
Dance, monkey, dance.
No. So yeah, but no, just there's a lot of stupid going around right now. That's all I got to say. And unfortunately, a lot of that stupid involves the Mariners. So
yeah. Nevertheless,
he was right there, Ty. Ben Gamel was right there. Anyways.
Yeah.
We're gonna get so many people mad that I'm yelling. My volume is gonna be so high. Whatever.
I mean, now that you're on your new laptop though, like the mic is better. It's a better volume now, so I haven't had to lower it. All right. Well, nevertheless, we are excited that baseball is back. Tomorrow, I think we're gonna do a Fan Fiction Friday though, because we're gonna be recording the show right before the game starts, or maybe during the game. I don't know. We'll see. Colby and I still have to talk about that. So we'll let you guys know what we're planning on doing over on our Twitter. So keep an eye on that if you want to know what's happening on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Mariners. And then starting Monday, I mean, we're going to do a mailbag show on Monday, but starting Monday, we'll actually have games to talk about and have, we're not going to get too deep into the overreactions over, stuff that happens during spring training games, but we'll have some takeaways. We'll have some things that we'll talk about from some of the games that we can watch, that we are allowed to watch from the little morsels that the Mariners and Root Sports will give us. But that's going to do it for our show today. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For Colby Patnode, I'm Trident Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Dane Gonzalez, that's DaneGNZLZ, and Colby at CPAT11, that's CPAT11. You can also find all that stuff in the description of this episode. And thank you again for making us your first listen. Now make your second listen Locked On MLB Prospects. Host Lindsey Crosby is a prospect encyclopedia, and he's going deep on the MLB stars of tomorrow. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts, just like us. And with that, have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.